This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
A very good morning and jumbo everybody, and welcome to our sunrise safari from the Masai Mara in Kenya, and especially in this area we are in that is called the Mara Triangle. My name is David. I don't know where I have been the last few days, and filming with me today is the big man. I'm talking about Big James. Good morning, James. Well, I might have some news to you as James want to pan out and show you the Masai Mara. There's an elephant from a distance. I'm sure James can get it. And talking about the good news is James at one point hopes he will step out of the car. And you'll see what I talk about when I say Big James, because James is a big boy. And I'm comparing him to James Henry in South Africa. Well, that's a beautiful savannah. That's the Masai Mara, starting with an elephant there. Well done, James. Strange, he is alone where he was eating. Look at that beauty of the Mara. Feels very comfortable. 13 degrees Celsius, 55 degrees Fahrenheit. And what's most important today is, remember, we'll always be happy when you ask us questions. Thank you very much, all nice viewers, and I'm sure you have been missing me the same way I've been missing you. And remember, we'll always request you to ask us questions as usual. Hashtag SafariLive. That's the balloon, James. There. Hang on there, James. Stop that right there. Very good. So everybody's going up now as me and James have gone up. And remember to ask us questions as usual. Hashtag SafariLive. Any comments you may have, please don't ask me what that balloon is doing up there. But the ballooners, or the people in that basket, well done, are enjoying the beauty of the Mara. And coming to Africa, it gives everybody this experience that's out of this world, either from the air or from the ground. Excellent. And so by going home, my home is in Nakuru. We're going to be showing you later in the map where I come from. And as I move on to find out who'll be saying jumbo to us or hello to us this morning. My grandmother is about 103 years old. She's a senior citizen. She's a big girl for 103. And 3 days ago, when I told her I'm going back to work, yes, and Cassie, the final control, says that is something. Hopefully, I am going to inherit her genes and live long. I do not know whether that is something good or something bad. But she is very solid, she is very switched on, she remembers most things, she'll make crabs for us. But where I was going into in this, she asked me when I was leaving 2 days ago, because I have to drive to the city of Nairobi, which is the capital city of Kenya, about 4 hours drive, and then either fly to the Mara Triangle, which is 45 minutes, or 5-6 hours drive again, depending on how I get here. And I told her a small story about some elephants that were having a small issue with some rhinos. And she told me, when you get back to work, or when you get back to the Masai Mara Triangle, please let me know if those elephants and the rhinos are still having an issue. And I told her, yes, I'll find out. So I do not know what to tell her. I couldn't tell her that was one off, and I did not mark or identify those elephants to be able to know which ones they were, not even the rhinos. So it was very interesting. She would ask me, you know, or should ask me, go find out what's the situation with those rhinos and the elephants. And the sun is trying to push up there. Let's see how Big James will give us that. So sunrise this morning coming up. Sorry, there's a bit of the roof. Yeah, well done, James. With all the beautiful colors of the morning in the Mara. You can see the yellow, peach colors there. Is it a bit of white? And castor grease, that's beautiful. And all those torchwood trees And I'm sure James is trying to get a hot air balloon somewhere in the background also. I've always said James Henry likes talking about the color of honey also. Look at that. So here's Jumbo, and how are you? And that's a very interesting question. Yes, I have been in a hot air on a hot air balloon a few times. And when I was in college learning about guiding, I learned, or the company I worked for told us, speaking English doesn't make you a very good guide. So you need to have another extra foreign language apart from English. And I had a choice of French and Spanish. And what my lecturer did, he told me, David, you look like you can speak Spanish. And I told him, I do not know. I have, with a choice, I would want to do French. But he told me, you look like I can speak Spanish. So I took Spanish for about 3 years. And having done that, the company I used to work for, as I move on, we had so many guests that would come from South America. I'm talking about Mexico or Puerto Rico. And most of them would not speak English because they were senior citizens. It's a bit expensive to come to Africa, I can tell you for a fact. So only people who have worked too hard or who have enough money can afford to come here. And because they do not speak English, most of the balloon pilots in Africa, most of them are English speaking. Very few I know of. I don't think I know any who speak Spanish. And for that reason, there is a very good briefing, or very important briefing the pilots have to give to the ballooners. I don't know how I can explain this. Who care? And I hope you're still there. Sorry about that. There's what you call takeoff position and landing position. So takeoff position or landing position, you have to coach and hold the basket like that. So you are imagining a non-speaking Spanish trying to explain this to a Spanish-speaking guest. It's very difficult. So the reasons why I've always gone flying in those balloons, not because I can afford it, not because I've always wanted, because I have to listen to the pilot. He or she will say what he needs to brief on the ballooners, and my job was to translate. But also once in a while, if we had guests who had small little kids who were keeping disturbing the parents when they're watching the view, my job was to tell them to shut up. So I've been ballooning, and it's quite a great experience to be up there. Ballooning takes about 45 minutes to about an hour in the air. But my most interesting experience on ballooning is on the landing. Who care? What happens is all balloon landings are crash controlled. No airstrips. Those baskets have no wheels to land, and what happens, they just so I have one pilot, she is a lady, she is from Alaska, her name is Patricia, and she kept telling the guest on any landing, don't move. As soon as you land, stay in that basket until I give you the thumbs up to climb out of the basket. Because what happens, if you come out of that basket before time, the weight will change of that basket. And it's very easy for that basket to take off again. And Patricia would tell the ballooners, if you get out before I tell you to, I am going to leave you there and you'll be eaten by the lions. The only thing she would tell the guests is, or the ballooners, if it lands and we roll and we go like this, you can scream as much as possible, but don't move out. All right, that's all about it, about ballooning. And now we need to find out where these animals are. Excellent, what a lovely day it is today. All righty, James saw something there, just walked away. Hopefully she'll get to see another one. James has very, very good eyes. So James, are you still up with my plan today? We're gonna step out, me and you. And what, James, I want you to do at one point, because James told me he's thinking about it. You're going to stop the car at one point. He's going to lock the camera, whatever that means. And me and him will step out of the car. And you're gonna compare and contrast our sizes, me and James, and find out who is taller and who is bigger than the other. Because I know you all know James Henry, and then you're gonna visualize James Henry and Big James. And at one point, I'm sure James will be out today, and you let me know whether I'm right when I call James, the camera operator, Big James, or the big man. James, are you still up to it? Thank you very much. And Cassie tells me not to worry. At one point, James will be heading out soon. I'm seeing a big bird somewhere on a tree. We want to find out what that big bird is. James, do you see some big bird there? Is that too far for you, James? Is that good position there? Okay, right there. It looks like a vulture to me, but James is going to confirm who that is. In the meantime, I'll be getting my follow because I'm talking of my binoculars. Some nice binos here. Looks like a big raptor, a big bird of prey to me, which is, I would guess, is a vulture. Very well done, James. And which vulture is this? I'm sure you viewers are wonderful people, and I have always loved the way you identify these birds. I'm going to give you a small assignment this morning and tell me which vulture do you think this is. I've given you a first clue. It's a big raptor, it's a big bird of prey, and definitely the most obvious clue, it is a vulture. Your work now is just to tell me which vulture this is. We got 7 true vultures in East Africa, or rather in Kenya. This is one of them. So tell me what or who she is, and she's grooming herself. James, if you look there carefully, you see the wings. She's definitely doing something, grooming herself and making sure the feathers are in good shape. They tend to fly very high, but this particular species don't go high as the one that, would do that, but they tend to remain quite low. The other clue I will give you, this is beautiful light, James, eh? The other clue I'll give you about this vulture, they normally go in twos. Most other vultures go in flocks, 5, 10, 15, 20, sometimes up to 50, depending on where they are or what they're doing. But this particular one, they'll always go in twos, and as usual, #SafariLive. Classic, very well done, very well done, excellent, congratulations. Yes, this is the lappet face vulture, very well done, excellent. And wherever you are, high five from me and another high five from James. James, do you agree? We give her a high five? Yes, James says yes, a good high 10 from all of us here in Kenya. And I do not know where the partner is. Rather difficult to tell whether it's a he or a she. But ideally what would happen, as I said earlier, they'll always go in twos, a male and a female. And of all the 7 vultures I was talking about, this particular one here is the largest in size. And what would happen? Did you see something else? Oh yeah, James, I've seen the other one. Very good, James. Excellent. James, another high five from me, but not like from the viewer. But yes, I was saying earlier, they go in twos. So one of them is a male and the other one is a female. While they're facing different directions, either they are looking for food. But yes, I was talking about 7 true vultures in East Africa. This one here is the largest in size and also the strongest. When they end up on a kill somewhere, or should say, for example, any animal dies for natural reasons, sometimes animals will die because of bloating, be they zebras or wildebeest. You can get 5 different species of vultures at the sighting or at where that animal is particularly dead, and they can't do anything about it. But this particular species, they have the right tools. They're like surgeons. Their beaks are very strong claws, and they're able to open up the dead animal. So if all the other vultures happen to be at a point, it's only this particular one here, which I'll give you one more look before we move on, that have the right equipment to open up. All the white you see on top of that tree, my guess is, could be the droppings from either this particular vulture, of course this is definitely too early, there's so much of it, or other vultures before, or other birds. We have seen such droppings also from the birds that we call the marabou storks. So this particular species of vulture, and well done for having gotten the correct name, the lappet face vulture, is the largest in size in East Africa and the strongest. Sometimes I call them John Wayne because of the stuff they're able to do. If you get 3-4 different species of vultures feeding in an area, and this one's land, all the others will always give way because they open up their wings just like that, and because they're strong, the others will know, yes, the big guys have come. It's time for us to give them space. Alrighty, we're gonna move on. Thank you so much, Vulture. Hopefully you build together as usual. Thank you, James, for spotting the second one. So we now be looking for the four-legged animals, and looking at four-legged animals, there's a two-legged Homo sapiens who is on a walk all the way in South Africa, in Joma.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a very chilly part of the Sunrise Safari. It's freezing cold here in South Africa. I think the cold front has left with it a wake of icing air, and I'm not sure how I'm going to make it through, but to walk very speedily during the course of the morning. My name is James Hendry, and a long-awaited return on camera for Gendre. There is his thumb. It's 9 degrees here, 48 degrees Fahrenheit in September. Now, while we are, of course, heading towards the summer, it's not unusual to have cold snaps during September here. I don't remember in winter having a temperature lower than 9, so it really is a very chilly morning for us out here. It is crystalline, though, very clear, beautiful, and I think it's going to be a lovely day, and I think it'll warm up very shortly as the sun comes up. Our plan is to head down towards Treehouse Dam, where there were tracks of Tundi yesterday. We are, of course, with Herberto, and he would like to do that, and so I'm far from arguing. I'm certainly not going to argue with him. Hosanna has been at the dam cam. I don't think we're going to try and get a view of him on foot, because he has been a little nervous of late, but we'll see. If we'll just pop our heads around there and see if there isn't some kind of a way we can get a view of him. This will be the last solo bushwalk from Djuma this morning. We'll have sort of some more staff, I suppose you might say, as of this afternoon. And so Sydney and Taylor are returning, and that will be good, I think, for all concerned. Colbert, you say now that we have David back, you are happy no matter what gets thrown at you. I think that's probably very, what should we say? I think that's very gracious of you, and I'm very pleased that David is back myself. I think he looked very happy to be back, and it's always a joy to see him driving amongst the Kenyan grasslands up there. What else do I need to tell you? Oh yes, you need to talk to us using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, and of course the chat stream on YouTube, but you probably knew that because you're already asking questions. Diane, I would rather walk in this cold weather, and that is because in the car the wind chill factor is that much higher, and I find it extremely difficult to feel my fingers and any of my extremities after driving around in weather like this for any length of time, so I'm glad to be on foot this morning. It's also such a crisp morning that I think the tracking's going to be pretty easy for a man like Herbert, and hopefully it will bear some fruit. You can see that the air, it's got very much lighter much earlier today, and I think that's because there's absolutely nothing in the air except air. There's no dust, and there is no cloud, and there is no smoke. Yesterday we could see the mountains way off in the southwest, which was wonderful. We'll have a quick listen to see if we can't hear some birds, other than the Senegal lapwings, which are going beep-beep, beep-beep, beep-beep. There is one there. Naturally, as I pointed at it, it started to run. Beep-beep. Can you see it, Genre? It is on that little two-track. Now it has disappeared. Let us see if we can go around this way. There it goes. It's still running along there. Got him? And that is the Senegal lapwing. And you can probably hear some hornbills going. And that's about all. My brain is My brain is very much frozen at the moment, and I find that it is increasingly difficult to speak in a coherent manner. You will notice that I'm finding this quite difficult. So I'm going to try and walk a bit faster, and in so doing, warm up my brain, and you're going to go back to East Africa, where there is David and an elephant.
Well, I feel sorry for James if that cold, 9 degrees Celsius and, 13 here. 4 degrees makes a whole huge difference, especially in Africa. So 4 degrees is quite a big leap in terms of temperature. But you can tell this elephant here, and another one James might be showing us, enjoying. They're eating, and I think these are two big boys. Good morning, sir. And how are you today? And you notice this particular alley, it's on that little green patch. So that is definitely the nutritious grass. And you can see the shadow of one of its right tusk on its trunk. I initially thought it was an oxpecker there, but on looking carefully I found out it is a shadow of its right trunk. And it tells you from where he is feeding from. That is the right quality of grass, more nutrition, and I would guess also much softer. Hello, big boy, just like a big man here, Big James. Males will tend to be on their own in small numbers, ones or twos, sometimes threes, but females will tend to be together. So I think this one and the other one James is showing us on the right of your screen there. Where did it go, James? Yes, and this one too. Either they could have been related. This looks bigger than the other one, and maybe the other one was just shown the doe the other day by the mother or the females in the herd, and he was told out and go live your life. And elephants being mixed feeders, most likely they could have been feeding in that little forest you see there, and then they would come out and feed. Elephant smells, I tell you, they are not nomadic, but what they will do, they'll move from one place to the other. But most important from your question, they do not travel with the herds. They are never together. They'll only be together for one reason, when they are mating. But once that's done, they end up in a place like here, and you see them on their own. Yes, they are nomadic because they keep moving from one place to the other, but just again to re-emphasize on my answer, the elephants, the males, do not travel with the herds. Once the boy is about 9, 10 years, the matriarch, if not the mother, the matriarch in the herd will always show them the door, and they end up living on their own. So very, very rarely you see them traveling together. Alrighty, it's having a poo break, the one on the right there. You see that one on the right there? It's having a poo break. And they eat so much, and also when they drop, yeah, the median is always so huge. And we have always used elephant droppings once in a while when it's dry to make some fires. So this will be two males on their own, and time comes for them to be in breeding time. They'll always rejoin the females, mate, and once the mating is over, they will always leave and again be on their own. What beautiful lighting we have today. And hopefully we're going to be able to get some herds of elephants. And the herds will always consist of females and the young ones. Young ones could be both males and females. So I was saying earlier, the elephant being mixed feeders will be out there feeding on grass, and then they go in to eat the trees. Jeanette, it depends. We have seen elephants that will not have tusks, if that was your question, and we have found out some either will miss tusks genetically. Oops, that's a big boy, you can tell, James, is it? Yeah, I think I was right. Should I have doubted myself when I said it was a male? If you look behind, on the hind legs, right below, you can see it is male organ just out there. I do not know why he got his penis all out, and you can see how big that organ is, eh? I feel sorry for that elephant. I don't know whether it is sensitive when it's being hurt by the grass and the sticks that's walking through. Hulala. So the point is, we have seen some elephants missing tusks, either genetically, but occasionally we have seen once in a while you might get an elephant which will have fought, with another one and might lose its tusk. So James is showing me the other elephant there. Thank you, James. Sorry about my head there. And you can still tell its reproductive organ is still out there. There is a national park in a country called Uganda, west of Kenya, where they have found out about 10-15% of the elephants there do not grow or generate tusks. And that area was very bad years ago in poaching. It was so bad. There was a lot of poaching going on there. And there have been so many theories why those elephants will not have tusks. And one of the theories is maybe through evolution they have known they get brought down by the poachers because of their tusks. And there have been a very vague theory saying if we grow our tusks and we are killed, why grow them? I do not know for a fact, but I think some research is still going on. But 15% of elephants not having tusks is quite a huge number. So either be it genetical, but again, as I say, they think the elephant will if we grow our tusks and we get killed by the poachers, why grow them? All right, time to move on, Big James. Okay, Mira, you need to go. Sorry about that. Let me have fossils. And I think my brother James is trying to look for a spotted cat somewhere, and good luck. You need us to get a cat. I was trying to think I would beat him by getting the first cat, but James might be beating us here.
I'm not sure what to say about that. Yes, we are looking for spotted cats, but we're on our way down towards Mr. and Mrs. Wahlberg's nest. Of course, as we have discussed over the last few days, there's been some domestic upheaval in the Wahlberg household, and we're going to go and see now exactly what's going on. For those of you who missed it, as we look at the sun slowly starting to come up, thankfully, it's so cold this morning. Freezing is what I was going to say there. I don't think I was going to prefix it with an expletive, but I might have by mistake, and that would have been tragic. For those of you who don't know what's been happening with Mr. and Mrs. Wahlberg, the pale form Wahlberg's female, we think, arrived back with a new lover this year. The pale form male that used to live in this area is no longer. Now, has he died on the way back? Has there been a divorce? We don't know. But she seems to have pitched up with a, what would we call it, intermediate form. In other words, he's not the same chocolate brown as the one down near Twin Dams. He's a sort of, what would we call him? Mousy brown coloured Wahlbergs. He looks juvenile to me. That might just be because he's a little bit smaller than she is. But he seems to have set up home with Mrs. Wahlberg's. And, well, it's going to be interesting to see if they can produce an offspring this year. We have no idea, purely from a biological point of view, as opposed to the kind of soap opera that I've been painting for you over the last few days. We have no idea how old these Wahlberg's eagles are. They can live, I think, for up to 20 years. Possibly even more than that. So it's possible that the male has just dropped dead of old age. Quite possible that he was taken by a predator somewhere on the way to or from the Sahel region of Africa. But no one really knows. Now, let's see if we can't look up into the tree there and see them. I don't see them there, unfortunately. Well, you see, Siberia, this is why I feel a great deal of resentment for her, because perhaps, yes, as you suggest, she has taken on a younger model, a strapping young fellow, to replace the old boy. Worse still, she seems to have taken to their home, their marital home, with her young lover. Is Mr. Wahlberg living on the street, Has he been consigned to the scrap heap of Wahlberg history somewhere, begging in the skies, without home? Well, now, this is what a lot of other people are saying, you see, is that maybe he found another lady, except that she, maybe he did, and maybe she had a really good lawyer, and so she managed to get the house. I can't see them, so I don't think they're here at the moment. Well, Aegis, that's the big question, isn't it? What happens if Mr. Wahlberg comes back and says, no, 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 this will not do at all, and then chases the young buck away? There's a Melba finch here, Gendre. You are now going to be, in this freezing cold, called upon to perform some pretty spectacular camera work. Just running into the grass there is a green-winged pytilia, a.k.a. the Melba finch. It has red on its face and red on its tail and green all over its body. Did you see it? It did. Well, no, there was a sparrow that jumped on the log, but it is around there. There is one just below the log there. Let's keep going. It is one of the most beautiful birds you can ever see out here, I think. It's not a region known for tremendously colourful birds, but the green-winged pytilia is a notable exception. No, it's definitely not here anymore. Alright, let's keep going. There's definitely no sign of Mrs. Wahlberg and her young buck. Yeah, Michael, I don't see why it wouldn't be possible. I also don't see why it's not possible that although they're monogamous, they're not necessarily mates for life. In many bird species, they are, they're nominally monogamous, which means that they won't take a new partner or have multiple partners during a breeding season. But I don't see any reason why that shouldn't happen between seasons from time to time. So, Michael, yes, it is possible that because he is unsuccessful, or between the two of them they were unsuccessful, they have split apart and are trying other partners. I doubt it would have been a conscious decision, but it would make evolutionary sense for that to be the case, and they did fail to raise a youngster last year. I don't even recall seeing a chick in the nest last year, but I may have. Well, Umkar, you make the best point of the morning so far. You say whatever the case, whatever the Wahlbergs do, whatever the tumultuous relations going on there and the ramifications of the divorce/widowing, best they stay away from Scoobert, our precious little blacksmith lapwing. Oh dear, Kirsten tells me that Scoobert has yet to be seen this morning, which of course is very worrying for all concerned. She says it's cold though. Maybe he's sleeping under Mum. I hope he is. Let's see if we can't find something interesting here. Now, like I say, I don't mind doing this before it gets warm, because I know that most things will not be breeding yet underneath the logs or underneath the bark. Ah, that's quite interesting. A lizard used to live over here. There we are. There is its shed skin. So it has used this area to come and shed its skin, and it would have done that in order to keep safe. Very vulnerable time for all reptiles when they're shedding their layer of skin as they expand and grow. Here's the rest of it. I think it was a lizard. Yeah, I'm 99% sure. and I suspect quite possibly it was a stripe-bellied lizard. Good. Well, that's quite interesting. So he would have sat under here for protection, as he was in that vulnerable state, and the double advantage of this bark would have been that it provided nice spiky bits for him to leave the skin on. I think I'm just going to put that down here. Trying to rehang it seems to be a waste of time. Let's continue. Whew. Herbert has led us down onto the Great Umlawamati River, which of course is the coldest part of the reserve in winter, because the cold air doth sink here down. I'm not sure that's English. Haven't seen any fresh tracks yet, and bird song still not quite into the full spring shout, and I suspect that's because suddenly it's got cold. I'm sure Mrs. Wahlberg and her lover are wondering why on earth they came back here when it's not quite yet summer. Alrighty, David Gitu Gatamba is back in Kenya. As you know, he hasn't managed to find anything just yet, but let's go back and find out where he's going to go looking for something.
Yes, I am back in Kenya, Kasi, as you just put it, because a few months I was in South Africa and I enjoyed it. I do not know who I have to talk to go back there. I just miss, apart from the people, the leopards, and especially one, it's called Tingana, and the youngster Hosanna. James, I do not know what you think about these elephants here. If you think I didn't give you a good angle or we're too far from them, tell me. We just saw two boys earlier, and I guess we might be lucky to see a herd of elephants. There's a question from a viewer, I think it was Jeanette, who was asking whether male elephants are nomadic or they go together with herds. And here we have a classical group of elephants, which is a herd. Not sure there's a small young little guy there near the youngster. So these are females and young ones. And again, just like the two boys we saw earlier, see the amount of green patch around where they are. They're just on the edge of it. And with all the intelligence of the elephants, they'll always know where to feed on. And sometimes they'll eat and drink at the same time. Elephants eating so much, they also tend to drink so much water. So the times they'll grab some food and at the same time some grass that will be wet and full of moisture. That's a big mama there, you can tell. And her youngster there. I'm sure she'd be able to eat. There's a bird flying in there, just landed. I'm not sure it was a stork or her dada ibis. I didn't see it very well. It just came landing like a small little jet. I want these elephants to turn around. We don't want to see the back shots. And you can tell that cow is so big. Not always, but I found out that the elephants here in Kenya, they are more angular, as you would consider or compare them to the elephants in South Africa, which are more rounded. And I think me and James Henry have always concurred on that. There's a shrike there. I'm not sure that's the grey-backed shrike. James, do you see that bird to the left there? Yes, that one there, in front of the elephant. Looks to me like a shrike. Gemma, very good evening. And if a baby Ellie would lose its task, depending on how good the mother is, and I have found out female elephant or the cows being very good mothers, they'll make sure that baby is very well fed. And I would say 9 out of 10 of those babies will always make it through to adulthood. But again, as they grow, they realize they need the tasks, to break down either trees or to dig for food. And once in a while, if they have to fight for themselves, especially if they are the males, then to those particular elephants, once they are adults, is a bit of a downside for them. But in general, I have found out ellies or baby elephants that will not have the task will always make it through. And that's a very good question, Gemma, when you think a baby elephant not having task at birth. But chances are, unless it's born genetically without some, we haven't seen them losing tasks either in a fight or unless they get an infection, which is quite rare. Oh, my apologies, Gemma. We're talking about trunk. My apologies there. Why would a baby elephant not have a trunk? I highly doubt. Way back when poaching was a big issue in Africa, people would use snares and use cables, and unfortunately the elephant. All right, and Cass reminds me of a Fortin Kruger National Park of an elephant without a trunk. And there's just a particular elephant, if I remember very well, that is so in Kruger, in Juma, that the female had a very short trunk, and she had three or two calves? Yeah, three, I think three. And they have managed, and she has managed for her to raise three calves. It shows even with a trunk, elephants would still make it. But I would say it's quite a challenge if it's a baby without a trunk from that very tender age. The mother have to work extra hard to make sure she's fed very well to grow to adulthood. And when these elephants to turn around, we need to see their heads. We have seen enough of the backside of the bat shots. But again, depending on where the green grass is, that's where they have to put their heads and their trunks as they pull out the grass. And we have a shrike again, two of them between them. I would have expected to see the egrets. Egrets are the birds that will always walk with these big animals to feed on the insects that they disturb in the grass as they walk. And that is a heron again. I think it's what I might have seen before, flying near those ellies. Hello, Big Mama. Does your calf want to nurse? She is not allowing her to nurse. She thinks she is too big to be nursing. And these are the African elephants. We also have the Asian elephants, which are different from this. But here in East Africa, we got the African elephants, the Asian. So I would want to agree with you. If you look at this herd we are watching now and the two males we saw earlier, there's a lot of grass in the Mara compared to Juma. Juma, I would say they eat both trees and grass, but as you said, more trees than grass. In the Mara, we have one very special landscape. We have one habitat that is very unique to the Mara, and this is the savanna, which is what you can see, some huge, vast, open grassland. So as much as even the elephants in the Mara will also eat trees or small little shrubs here and there, I would say they eat more grass than the trees. I would agree with you 100%. I remember when I was in Juma a few months ago, I would not see like 1 kilometer. Let me say I could not see half a kilometer of 500 yards straight without any visual obstruction or without any visual pollution. There could either be a tree or a bush or some thickets. But in the Mara, like where we are now, I can tell you, I can look like 3 kilometers straight. If, James, you come to over my head and you go 12 o'clock from where we are, just pan all the way to those trees there in the background there. See those trees there? I'm sure it's against the light, exactly. So if I estimate from where I am to those trees, look at that openness, that's part of the savanna. But from here to those trees there, my guess, give or take, is about 3 kilometers. In Juma, to see half a kilometer straight or 500 meters, 500 yards to see, it's very difficult. And I used to make jokes. You had to drive very slowly. Otherwise, you'd make one turn and you'd boom, meet with an elephant just right there because it's being hidden or obstructed by the bush. It's time to move on. We've done well with the elephants and we need to get some cuts today. I miss my leopards in Juma, but in East Africa or in Kenya we see more lions and cheetahs than leopards. And I can tell you, James is very determined to get a cat before me, but me and James, we have said we might be beating him, and let's find out James's success.
No success just yet. We have got some tracks though, and Tundi's come across this valley here, I suppose you might call it, this little riverbed, and she seems to be going up towards the Juma Dam. So Herbert is just down south, confirming that he's got other tracks there, and then we'll probably start heading back north. Let's have a look at this tree over here. The tree that has the very longest thorns of any tree in this area, and that is acacia, or used to be acacia, it's now Vachellia robusta, the splendid thorn. And while this particular tree does not look particularly splendid, in full leaf it is the greenest and most attractive of all of the Vachellia trees. And I wanted to try and bring you a thorn to show you, but they are quite well attached to this version. Here we go. Look at that, hey? 3 inches or so. Now I'm told that when the original settlers, or not the original settlers, when the first white settlers, definitely not the original ones, came through South Africa, they brought with them their gramophones and that sort of thing, those that could afford them. But obviously the supply of needles for the gramophone records was, well, shall we say, difficult to secure when living out here. And so apparently these thorns used to substitute quite nicely as gramophone needles. I find it difficult to believe myself, but apparently that is the case. Then all of these acacias, especially all of the Vachellias, especially the long-thorned ones, have a lot of tannin in the bark, and so many of them were used for tanning. The bark would be peeled off, boiled, and it would leave some kind of tanning material that the people would use to tan their leather, to make their saddles and shoes and underpants and that sort of thing. Alrighty, let's carry on. No? We got a problem? I see that. Shondo says the camera won't zoom out. Will it zoom out now?
Very slowly.
Very slowly it is zooming out. It's going at very slowly. Okay, I think the camera's objecting to the temperature. Come on then. Get on here. I've dropped my stick. I shall pick it up again. Right, I have failed to find you anything of biological use other than that tree, which wasn't moving at all. David, on the other hand, has found you elephants and a very colourful bird.
Well, James, my apologies. I thought you are winning, but I'm sure you are always a winning boy at one point. You'll be able to win. But I would say I have a very big success here, because I have seen, or we have found out, my favorite bird in Africa. And this is the lilac-breasted roller. Very lucky just to see her very composed there, not moving. She's about, I would say, what, 5 meters from where we are. Good morning. And I would say it's my favorite bird because she is the most colorful bird I know of in the whole world. Or of all the birds I've seen, she's the most colorful one. Vasha, how many species of birds we have where we are in the Masai Mara? Give or take, we got between 450 to 500 bird species in the Mara. Myself, I usually say about 450, because on a particular day or in a year, we have days that we call bird watching days. We have been able to count up to 400. So where we are, we got about 450 species of birds. And I may have to relocate a little bit. There's a curb behind me, and just give them room. And yeah, let me just move on a little bit. Hopefully my lilac breasted roller doesn't go away. So I would say we got 450 species of birds where we are in the Masai Mara. Let me see. She looks very friendly. I'm going to give you a very awkward angle, James, there. Let me see if that's going to help you. Oh, she just flew away. There she goes. That's all right. Hello, this is friends of ours. Oh, good. Yeah, just watching around. Elephants all over our switches. Yes, and I think there could be some Simbas if you move in that direction. We're coming up. We're going to be following you soon. Yes, just keep straight, another 500 meters from there, and then look to your left. Thank you very much. Sorry about that. These are friends of ours. Oh, James spotted something bigger than what I had before. Well done, James. And we got an ostrich. James, you're winning today. And we got two types of ostriches in Kenya or in East Africa, the Maasai ostrich and the Somali ostrich. This is the Maasai ostrich. And of all the birds that have very clear sexual dimorphism of birds in East Africa, ostrich is one of them. And this is a male. The males will be black and white on their feathers, and the females will be about grayish, brownish in color. And just like the vulture we saw earlier, he is grooming himself, not for flying, unlike vultures that will fly. We all know ostrich do not fly, and they're the largest birds we got in the world, and specifically I would say so in Africa. And they would be feeding on anything. Again, just like the elephants we've been seeing on green patches. You see where he is. Most birds are more like, omnivorous. They'll get insects, they'll get seeds, any worms, I'm sure, in that particular patch he is in. Because I will know that area is a bit wet. It's a little swamp where he is. A lot of grooming he's doing, which I haven't seen in a long time on ostriches. I do not know where the females are. What do you spot there, James? Are those toppies? Very good. Earlier, casting the final control made a joke to me and said, David, you just came back to work from leave. Yes, and possibly we can get us Toppy, giving birth, but I have been not able to do that, Casty, but I'll show you, or we are showing you a very cute baby. And yes, and she says, that's a very cute baby with a Toppy. In general, you notice many animals, once they give birth, they tend to pull away from the main herd, and they'll stay with their youngsters or with the young ones for about a few days or weeks together, because they want the mother to have a proper imprint, or the baby to have a proper imprint of the mother, so that once she rejoins the main herd, the baby doesn't get lost by joining or going with the wrong mother. Unlike cats like lions, where they have what we call allo suckling, that any cub could suck on any mother, most herbivores or most antelopes do not do that. So the youngster or the baby have to suckle its mother, and to avoid them losing their mothers, they have to stay together and they get properly connected. They have a good bond that even when they are like 20, 50 of them together, the baby will very, very easily be able to locate the mother and go and suckle on it. To the left, James, if you move to the left, is it a bird there or something? No, the other way, James, the other way. There, pan there. Some dark thing there. Looks like a bird to me. Can't see it very well from here. Could be kind of a stork there feeding. Very good. We may have to move. I've just relocated my... If you allow me, James, to move, I think I still can see my lilac breast roller somewhere. Let me see how close we can get. No, it's a different location. She is... 1 minute, sorry about that. Mila, you need to move. She's on a termite mound. James, do you see her there? Can you see her, James, right there? She moved from where she was earlier. I was giving way to a car, and she went and landed on that termite mound, on that little termite mound, yes. I'm not sure she's too cold or why she's not moving. She looks a bit under the weather. We had some showers last night. Oh, are you too young? Are you too cold? The feathers are not... Oops. Did you just fly away? No worries. So in flight, when you see those lilac-breasted rollers flying, you'll see the purple in them, the blue in them, the green in them, the white in them. And that's one of the reasons that make me call them my favorite birds, because they look very beautiful in flight. Alrighty, time to move on. It's warming up, feels very good at the moment. We should be finding out where the cats are. Wonderful temperatures for cats to be moving around. All right, James has another feathered friend.
It is a woodpecker. Ooh. And it's quite a special one. Well, relatively. That is the golden-tailed woodpecker. I think. It's too big to be a cardinal, too small to be a bearded. I think it's a juvenile as well, you know. It's got a very mottled face. Beautiful bird. Now you can see very clearly there how that tail is used as a sort of, what would we call it, a stabilizer. So it's got the zygodactyl feet which grip into the wood, and then that tail, which is made of much harder material than most bird tails, is used to wedge it kind of in place. A little bit like a piece of earth-moving equipment has those stabilizing feet that go down when it's doing its work. I don't know if that makes any sense to any of you. And look at it probing there. It's drilling its little hole and now sticking its beak into the hole and then pushing its tongue inside to try and pull out any grubs or things that might be in there, larvae from wood borer beetles. And the tongue, of course, wraps all the way around the top of the head. Gemma, it took me a while to learn all the bird species, but I have been out here a long time, so, you know, it's not that remarkable. I think if you came here and you spent an intensive 3 months, you would probably have about 80% of the birds down pat, including their calls, if that's what you'd concentrated on purely. It's just a question of seeing each one, you know, 5 or 6 times. That is a really gorgeous picture of a woodpecker. Isn't that lovely? I would like to be that woodpecker right now because it's up there in the sun. I cannot remember a morning colder than this year. And although I'm sure pretty much it must look pretty warm on your picture, it has been very, very cold. Now that's one of 4 woodpecker species that we get here, of course. The golden-tailed, the bearded, and the cardinal are the other ones that feed in trees. Yvette, yes, woodpeckers are indeed found around the world. And as I said yesterday when we were watching a bearded woodpecker, we actually don't have a very good representation of the order in southern Africa. The New World has far bigger woodpeckers than we have here, and probably more species as well. So they're fairly small and poorly represented here in southern Africa. We've got one that feeds on the ground here, which is quite interesting. I've never seen it at Djuma, but I've seen it in the area, and that's called a Bennett's woodpecker. Lauren, we can hear the woodpecker pecking. It's, I'm afraid, not a function of the fact that the woodpecker doesn't make a noise when it pecks. It's a function of the fact that we do not have adequate sound on the bushwalk to pick up the ambient sounds and, you know, bird calls, peckings, crickets, that sort of thing. So you can actually hear it pecking away. It goes very soft, little tick, 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 tick. So you might be able to hear that. You can hear the bearded woodpecker when it pecks, but the bearded woodpecker pecks not only to drill food out of wood, but as a territorial pecking. And they find hollow bits of wood and then go in the mornings. I can hear one doing it now, but it's a long way away. Okay, let's carry on. Freezing to death, standing still for more than 2.5 seconds. No, James, spring is not late this year at all. All that's happened here is that we've had a cold front coming through, and between September and December, that is really not unusual. Well, September and the beginning of November, it gets very hot, and then we'll have a front come through for a few days, sometimes as many as 5 days, and then it'll go away again. The only times I've ever seen it snow in Johannesburg were in December, both times in December. And in fact, in 1982, when I was very little, we had a full covering of snow when we actually made snowmen in Johannesburg, which is very unusual, and that was on the 11th of September. So it's not unusual for us to have a really properly cold spell in December, at least in September, before heading into the kind of much warmer, more familiar spring conditions. No, Berta, I don't worry about snakes when I walk. Snakes are universally afraid of us. They will move away from us if they hear us coming. On a morning this cold, no self-respecting snake's going to be anywhere other than inside a burrow. And also, they will be unable to move very much in this kind of temperature. I don't worry about snakes. They are around. And in fact, it would be very nice to see some. But we see very few, despite seeing their signs, their tracks, and despite the fact that we know that there are a lot of them around. Let's see what else we can find down here. My earpiece is so cold it's jumping out of my ear. Ow, ow, ow. David Gatamba Gitu has succeeded yet again, and he's managed to find you a kitty.
Asante baba. Nafikiri tutapika kidogo, twende alafu turudi. Well, I think I'm beating James, and we got our cats now. Young lion here. I'm trying to think whether he's a male or female, under what we call cotton bushes. Very strange. It's not as cold. It should be out in the sun. I do not know why he's staying in there, but looking carefully, much deeper, there are more than that. I've seen two young, if you look carefully right behind it, the two youngsters playing under that little dark patch. If you look, there's a bit of movement there. You can see a pool right there. Well done, James. Yes. We've got about 2 or 3 cubs that are playing there. It's a whole pride of lions here, and I'm guessing this could be part of the Marsh Breakaway Pride. Not very sure who these are. So this one I see here doesn't help me to identify which pride this is. But the good news, I think I'm winning, and James has now to match with us with getting a leopard or two down in South Africa. Hello. Why are you staying there? It's not too hot. You should be out in the sun. My guess is there could be 10 or more lions together here. There's a whole pride. They don't look very well fed. From the 1 second I had to look at its belly, the belly didn't look very full. So either later today they'll be looking for some prey to bring down. Not very sure what contribution this youngster might do, but maybe we'll be looking at the mother to do the big job. I got a feeling they'll come out in a more open area, which is a bit sunny. The ones behind there are moving. James, did you see the ones in the back to the left? They were below that big tree there. They just moved to the left. So this one is watching in a particular direction very keenly, not for what reason. What we found out, the youngsters, as much as they may not be able to hunt, they have always helped the adults to identify a prey. Looks like a young male to me. Hello. Beautiful face you got. There's a bit of some fur, if you look on the neck carefully, coming out, which would most likely indicate he could be a very young boy. And boys, being boys, they're always a little bit playful, doing things that females will not do. So if you look at that belly carefully, to me it doesn't look very full. Between his hind leg there you can see some little open space, and an indication that you might want to eat. So we got some cars moving in front of us. So what we'll do now, we're going to relocate, move around, and we'll be back later at this particular point when most likely they come out in an open area where we could be able to see them now. A few cars around this area, but I can see them moving away, and if that happens then we might have a better chance of seeing them. That's friends of mine just waving at me. So let's see if you're going to change or reposition ourselves. James, just hang on and see whether we might be lucky to change the location. So we're going to move forward a little bit and find out where we are. James, just hang on right there. Keep holding on, James. Keep holding on. We're going to go around 2 or 3 cars because I think there are more of them here, and we want to find out whether we might get a better location than that. Yes, there's more of them in the particular. We're going to turn all the way around. Keep holding your camera there, James. Don't lose it, and you tell me, what about that, James? Is that any better, or do we want to be back up? Just hang on, I'm going to back up a little bit. James, about that, so that's good. Alright, let's see what James will come up with this. Sorry, there's a truck there, but I'm sure James can do a bit of magic and go around it. That's the youngster that we've been seeing. That's better position than before. And I'm now more convinced than earlier that he is a boy. Good morning. I don't know why they look a bit skittish today, because it's the much breakaway pride. They're always out there in the open, full of courage. They don't fear vehicles. But it would happen, you never know. Remember to keep asking us questions. Hashtag SafariLive. Any comment you may have is welcome. Do lions have a specific job when they're in the pride? I would say yes, because mainly the lions, especially the big grown males, they have to protect the pride. They have to protect the youngsters. And if there's a male here that have sired, sorry about my head, this particular cubs here, he will always make sure that the cubs are protected, because we'll always have what we call males takeover or coalition takeover. And when new males come over and a pride like this, and they get the youngsters, because they may want to have their own genes, they may kill all the youngsters or the cubs in here. So the existing males will always make sure these ones are protected. Mainly that's what they do, apart from, of course, mating and siring and making sure they keep their progeny going. Hello, youngster. Come out a little bit more than where you are. Would want to get better profiles of you. Proud cat mama, I would say anything 2 to 3 years. A lion should be able to, ooh, that's a good yawn. I hope you saw that, proud cat mama. Anything 2 to 3 years, they should be able to start roaring. And especially at 3, you get a very heavy roaring coming out, more so from the males. I would say males do the actual roaring. Females may, but they do more calling than roaring. But the males will always do it. So anything 2.5 to 3 years is good age for them to do that. But I would say 3 years is definite. And you can always pick them roaring, proud cat mama, especially another yawn, very good, when they have to re-establish their places. Our time to move, okay, there he walks, beautiful looking, good stretch, turn around, and yes, it's a boy. Between or below the tail, I would see it is testicles, so it's definitely a male, and I don't know where he's going. I think there was one cat that was stuck, then he was trying to get it out of the way. Again, sorry about my head. And we're looking at those lions in front there. Lisa, 2 to 2.5, you'll definitely tell this is a male lion. And by 3, the mane rather is quite established, Lisa. So at 3 years, definitely you'll tell a male. The male, the mane is quite grown and is quite conspicuous. And Lisa, hopefully I'll be able to get you one fully grown male and show you. Now, I do not know that one female there. She got youngsters nursing because the angle she is lying on is when they're always suckling their young ones. I don't see any youngsters nursing. There's one that's putting its head up. But my guess is unless she got youngsters, or they're just cuddling, yes, with its young cubs, I guess. Hello there, that's being very playful. Grooming, oops, that's very nice. How cute is that? Of all the cats we've got 2 to the left there. James, thank you very much. See, there's 2 playful boys there. I don't think I want to be a lion is playing this kind of games here. So moving, going to join the main pride. Exactly, and casting the final control says that's very cute. We are also enjoying this kind of play for youngsters here with James. James, are you having fun with these youngsters? You want to join them? What do you mean now? James thinks they're too young for him, but I can tell you, James gets very scared of lions. Not that he can join them. He is so big, but when it comes to lions, even if they're small little cubs, James doesn't even want to get close to them. Of all the cats in Africa, lions are very, very social. And you can see how they re-establish the bonds by playing together. And that reinforces their togetherness, I would say. You'll see 1 leopard here, 2 at most, cheetah the same. But lions, anything from 2 to 20 is very possible. Michelle, as soon as the main, I would say, the main lion or the guy in charge of the pride, for example, realizes the young boys are trying to misbehave, because not once or twice, many times you have seen the youngsters, the males, sometimes trying to play games with their mothers or trying to mate with their mothers. And once the males realize or picks that, it's very straightforward. They are always shown the door. Out they go. So I would say at the age of 3 years, they're told, go establish your territories and live your life. So you can see they're still continuing being playful as usual. How playful that is, eh? So I think that's the mother there, or one of the fully grown females here. There's one of friends of a car that could have been stuck. So if you hear a car trying to zoom, he's stuck. In the mother we have what you call the black cotton soil, and it's always very sticky and very soft. As I was saying earlier, we had some rains last night and the ground has become very soft. So here he's trying to rev to get himself out, but if worse comes to us, we might give him a hand. And if there's someone who I know doesn't get stuck, is James Henry.
James Henry gets stuck plenty of times. He just happens to not to have found himself in the wet season Mara over the last little while. Yes, it is really quite astounding how some people do not understand the concept of being quiet in the wilderness, especially in a car, nor do they seem to understand the concept of not making a noise around other people. But I guess, well, of the many faults in humanity, that's probably just one of them. A small one. Right, I'm afraid we haven't found anything further of great use as far as the tracks go. But we are heading up north towards the Vuyatela Dam, so chances are we might see Hosana as well. Gemma, if you scrape away at the bark of a supposedly dead tree, or a tree that looks dead but is in fact dormant, you will find green material, and you'll find that the sticks and the twigs don't just break off like they would in a dead tree. So here's a good example up here. Chandra, we might have to climb a little bit. This tree is very much dormant. It is not dead. And if we take the twig here and we break it open, you can see very clearly that there's greenery and that there's moisture. Even though it's dormant and it hasn't produced a leaf probably for 3 or 4 months now, it's perfectly alive. Whereas a tree like, well, bits of that tree over there, I suppose. Let's go around the corner here. I mean, this tree is obviously dead, and if you try and scrape away here, you'll have nothing. You can't break it. Just, it'll just snap off. There's no moisture in it. There's no movement of nutrients up and down. It's dead. See? You see how dead it is? It's very dead. Thank you, Gemma, for that. Righty, we're continuing our quest, A, to find the sun, and B, to find the leopard. Now, just about everything hides away in the cold, and some spiders, some of the most impressive spiders, for example, the golden orbweb spider, die during the cold. They don't survive over the course of a season. They'll drop dead pretty much as they've laid their eggs and never return. And so, yes, many spiders are sort of seasonal, annual species, lay their eggs, die, and then the eggs hatch during the summer. Some make it through the winter in a state of dormancy. But nothing, remember, that doesn't produce its own body heat is able to move around very efficiently when it's cold. And so mammals and birds, they're okay in the winter time, but reptiles and amphibians, insects, arachnids, they're all got to cope with the cold in different ways, and often the species copes with the cold by just not being alive during the cold, or by being dormant. But dormancy, of course, brings with it a number of very expensive problems. and those go along the lines of how do you make sure that there's sufficient nutrition in the body to make sure that it doesn't die completely. Complicated metabolic processes that have to go on there. How do you find yourself a secure place to be so that nothing eats you during your stage of dormancy? And so there are a lot of complications with being dormant as opposed to just dying. Now, I mean, that sounds perhaps a little ridiculous, but biologically, for a species like the golden orb-webbed spider, for example, it just makes much more sense not to bother to be around during the winter, but just to drop dead and then carry on with the next generation the next season. You can imagine the complexities of trying to find a place of safety for the winter for something the size and colour of a golden orb-webbed spider. A lot of the baboon spiders, however, which live underground anyway, survive for many, many years. And in fact, I think the oldest spider, this is quite interesting, I read this the other day, the oldest spider ever on record died the other day, was 43 years old. Most likely a member of the tarantula or baboon spider family, and it was killed by a wasp. Can you believe it? 43 years it managed to avoid being stung by a wasp, and it was killed by a wasp. Right, I think that the revving monster around the lions has managed to find his way out of his hole. We'll catch up with Herbert while you go and catch up with the lions.
Well, coming from a monster now, I still got my cats, my lions with me, and I know for a fact now the pride I got. This is the Olololo pride, and my apologies for having said this was the marsh breakaway. It's not. This is the Olololo pride of lions, and they were seen about 15 miles from here by James Brent. That is 2 days ago. So they must have traveled about 20 miles last night to be where they are. I did not expect them to be this close, but also been able to identify two of the females in this pride positively. So this is the Olololo pride of lions. So I have not moved from where I was. We may not be having very good visual because the car that was stuck is still behind me, and we had to get someone to go around and tow him out. And what I'm trying to do is to obstruct the lions from seeing the guide coming out of his car to put what we call a tow rope. He got a very good car, a four-wheel drive, a Land Cruiser, just as good as mine, but the problem would be if lions would see him, we do not want that to happen. So I have remained where I was just to make sure I obstruct the lions from seeing the guide coming out of the car and getting towed. So they have just connected the tow rope now, and we might hear a bit of revving going on as they try to get that car out. And again, as I said, with the rains last night, the ground has gotten a bit soft, and we have what you call the black cotton soil. I'm not sure that lioness is eating grass or what she is doing. If you look carefully, we have seen cats doing that, lions, leopards, and more often than not when they do that is when they want to get something out of their tummies. If they have a bit of imbalanced tummies, we have seen them eating grass, and that will induce vomiting and getting out whatever could be a concern in their tummies. So this particular one we see here, either is eating grass or some leaves, but it's anything green they eat, and once they eat it, it makes them feel more worse, and they get nauseated, and they tend to vomit. And sometimes you've seen them vomiting balls of fur, because when they're on kills and they're very hungry or they eat very quickly, they'll eat both flesh of the animal plus the fur together. And it's very difficult to digest keratin to most cats. So it gets rounded up in the tummies, and because it can't come out through the normal natural way, they'll have to bring it out through the mouth. And sometimes it's rather difficult to do that, and you find them eating grass to help them get it out. So the bushes you see there are what we call the orange-leaved crotons, very popular with the lions all over Africa. and we have found out these leaves tends to repel insects. You rarely get any mosquitoes or any types of flies around these particular bushes, and for that reason we have always seen lions sticking around them, because they don't get disturbed or get irritated by the flies. These lions, we want you to move around, get out of there. There's a lot of shadow and shade where you are. It's not too hot. Okay, we are very, very safe, and what happens is we have learnt behavior of the animals, and the cats, especially the lions, they get habituated to seeing these very big cars, smelling fumes and smoke, diesel sometimes, and we look bigger than them. Then chances of them getting close to us are zero. The ball game changes when we are out of the car, and that's when things have always gone wrong in Africa. And I was saying, King, before, I had to remain where I am to help the vehicle that was stuck to get the guide come out and anchor his torp to be towed up by another vehicle, because the moment the animals, the cats saw the lion see us outside the vehicles is when things go wrong. But as it is now, we are fine. Staying in here, nothing would happen. Hello there, why don't you want to come out? And I'm sure, King, you have heard of cases where people have been killed by lions in Africa. You know, people are always to blame. It's us that make mistakes, and sometimes people will think these animals are, so friendly, they're not wild, and they're like, can I come out? We have seen, guests asking, can I pat this lion? And it's not possible. But if the guests are with a professional, he or she will tell them lots of do's and don'ts. Wild animals, at the end of the day, remain wild animals. So we'll always respect their space, don't invade, don't go so close to them, and in general, nothing goes wrong. Sounds good, James. James, do you have a story of anybody who have ever been killed by a lion that you know? Yes, James, one thing, he sees lions, he sees leopards, he panics. As much as they call him the big man, when it comes to cats, he's not a big man. So what we'll do now, we'll move on, and we'll later on come, hoping that these lions will be out of where they are and have better spaces. All right. And hopefully now, the temperatures might have gone up in South Africa. James, what's the temperatures like? Are you feeling like you can run and outrun the lions out there? Maybe they have orcas from what you saw the other day? Let us know.
We've just heard leopard calling up here. He's moving away from us. We think it's a he. I don't think it's Thandi. Most likely Tingana. So we're just moving quite fast up through this block. It is warming up, David. The sun is definitely warming things up. Apparently it's 12 degrees out here now, 54 Fahrenheit, which was certainly warmer than it was when we started. This leopard suddenly started calling. He's called 4 or 5 times. We're walking through some very difficult terrain here for Gendre, so if the camera suddenly has a close-up of the dirt, you'll know that Gendre's fallen over. Herbie's walking off at a much quicker pace than us because, well, the picture will be very unpleasant. Yes, M1K, the carpenter is around. Quite a nice nickname for Tingana, the carpenter. Sounds slightly criminal. Let's just look and see if there are any tracks here. We're not actually on tracks at the moment. But something suddenly inspired this leopard to start calling. We've been walking around here all morning, similar area, circling. There's been no call at all. Now suddenly, 4 or 5 times. Carol, you're wondering where we are. We're in between Wahlberg's Eagles Nest Road and a road called Ingwe Alley, moving in a westerly direction. Just listening. Hope he's just up ahead. There's an arrow-marked babbler in this bush. You see him there? Oh, he's gone overhead. Never mind. Let's carry on. It's a lovely little path here. Of course, it could be a new male leopard. It's not impossible. I think it's very unlikely that it's a new male leopard, but it's certainly not impossible. It's also not impossible that it's Hosanna suddenly finding a voice. I think that would be unlikely, again, but it's not impossible. Nothing out here is impossible. And as I always like to say, the fastest way to make yourself look like an idiot is to make a definite call on something. Suddenly a great conflagration or consternation of calling rattling sesticles. What are they shouting at? Now we need to balance speed here with caution, because if it is Tingana and he sees us coming, he'll disappear before we can see him. Herbie's still heading off in exactly the same direction. The leopard hasn't called again. Let's just wait here for a second. There's a fork-tailed drongo on the edge of that bush, and I feel like if the leopard was close, he would be shouting. He's just sitting there, warming himself. They do alarm call. They don't like predators. He's just making a sort of standard issue morning drongo call at the moment. Okay. Otherwise, everything's pretty quiet. Let's just go around this way. Yes, I think President Camacho Tingana would be very dissatisfied to hear. Very dissatisfied to hear Tingana, at least Hosanna, sawing. Something going on here. Birds going crazy. Rattling sticklers going bzz, 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 bzz. They seem to have calmed down now. All right, let's continue up the way that Herbert's going. I'm laughing because I've yet to introduce you to him, but we have an intern with us called Koli, and Koli is making valiant attempts to stay off camera, and the speed with which he just ran around the back end of Gendre there was most amusing. I will introduce you to him during the course of this week. Alright, so far the score is about 75-0 to David Gitu. Hopefully we'll have one by the time we see you here next.
Well, good luck, James. I know you are always a winning boy. And we left our lions and thought, let's follow these big pachyderms here. The Ellis, and this is a mama and a young one. And I'm looking at the tusks of this mama here, and they look to have a very funny shape. One is definitely longer than the other, and it seems one is more elevated than the other two. They've taken different angles. This is nothing out of the ordinary. It's very common in elephants. And we have always said elephants, like human beings, are either left-handed or right-handed. And sometimes when we try to explain that, is the shorter tusk. If, for example, from what I can see here, looks to me like the right one is much shorter than the left one. Is it true, James? James says I'm lying, but I will not agree with James. I think the right one of that Ellie is much shorter than the left one. So what I'm trying to say, oh yeah, okay, James for once now agrees with me. I don't know why he was not in the first place. So this one would be a right-handed elephant. And how we explain that, she tends to use that particular task more than the other, and it definitely wears out. Breaking trees, digging, if she will need to give a small little nod or push to the young one, so it wears out quickly. But also, we need to remember, elephant tusks grow forever. They keep growing. They do not stop growing all their life. And they're made of keratin, the protein keratin. And James is trying to show us another mama and a baby walking. It's a big herd. This is not the very herd we saw before. This is a different herd of Ellis that we're watching. And the babies or the calves will always make sure they stay very close to their mothers. Sometimes elephants are funny. They keep it as they keep moving. Sharon, we have an interesting, I would say, center in Nairobi that is called the Daffin Shedrick. And it has raised all types of debates, Sharon, because personally, I've been in the African bushes for so very many years. I do not remember having seen an abandoned baby elephant, not one. But there's a center near the Nairobi National Park in the city of Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya, called the Daffin Shedrick Center. And what they do there, they say they'll always take care of abandoned elephant babies or rhino babies, and then they reintroduce them to the bush where they are found. But again, Sharon, as I said, out of my experience, I have never seen an abandoned baby elephant. Elephants, I know, they're very intelligent animals. And we have seen, or we know for a fact, for example, should a mother die for one reason or another, the sister or a very close cousin to the mother will always automatically start to lactate. Sometimes we call them allo mothers. And that way, that baby will survive. And if she was still very young, tender, and delicate, and not at the age of being able to nurse, the sister or the first cousin will lactate, and she will survive that way. So Sharon, just to answer your question, I have never seen, an abandoned baby elephant that never made it. You can see that one, small tusks coming out of it, so she could be 2 or 2.5 years. That's the age at what? The age from when the tusks start showing up. So elephants will molt us, move, pull up grass, keep eating. Trunk up, what are you smelling? Some of these survival tactics they learn from their mothers. They'll smell to catch up with the rest of the herd, maybe pick something on the ground or left by the foot of other Ellis that might have passed there before. They might smell if there could be cats or anything of concern in front of them. That mama to me looks so big. I don't know whether James again will agree with me or disagree with me. If you look at the big mama, James, you should go pan to the mother. The mother is coming up there. She looks pregnant to me, as much as I would guess that's her calf. that would tell me she could be pregnant again. And look on the angular shape of that cow there. And earlier I was talking about the elephants in East Africa being more angular than the ones in South Africa. And you can see her mammary glands being so huge as she moves her left front leg. And definitely, yeah, no doubt, I definitely want to believe she is pregnant. It's always such an investment to carry a baby for like almost 2 years. And looking at this one here, guessing she's 2.5 or 3 years old. And I would guess she got a few more calves. Gemma, I would say anything after about 2 years, that baby is independent and she can manage on her own. And 2 years, 2.5 going to 3, they're able to comfortably eat grass or any green matter they would be able to get. So we got some cars there, but they're just part of us enjoying this beautiful world. So Gemma would say 2.5 going to 3 years. That's a good age for any baby elephant to be independent. And it's that it's trying to nurse. I don't know. Yeah, she just stopped. Yeah, 2.5 to 3 years should be a good time for any baby to be independent. We're going to be moving on now, and maybe we'll give you a chance to get close to them. Just 1 minute. This guy just pausing there. Going to get closer to those elephants. All right, James. Any luck, James, with spotted cat in South Africa, Juma?
David, I would have asked for a crash cut, an extremely speedy cut, if we'd had any luck whatsoever. I've seen 2 mammals today, one duiker, which was running, and now Steenbok, that's just broken the land speed record, running straight off towards the east. I'm becoming increasingly frustrated. We haven't found even tracks of this leopard that was shouting close by to us. Herbert is becoming depressed again. I'm having to break out the Prozac drip. Let's just walk down onto this little road over here and see if he isn't maybe coming along this way. Anyway, the morning is turning into a gorgeous morning. It's warming up, thankfully. Finally. We've got a spider web. Oh. There we are. Chastity, no, not accidentally bumping into Tingana is actually not very scary, because Tingana is so suspicious of human beings on foot that he just gets up and runs away. You wouldn't want to corner him. Cornering him would be absolutely terrifying. But if he can move away from you, he will. And that's been his life's approach, and why he's lasted so long. Let's just go down here a little bit more and see if we don't pick something up coming this way. He hasn't called again, which makes me think he may well have picked us up following him. Ginger birds will try and mimic mammals calling, but a leopard sawing is beyond the capability of most birds. So I'm pretty sure, no, that we didn't have a bird mimicking his call. Here's a very pretty tropical tent web spider, one of the spiders that does make it all the way through the cold season. One of the very few. There is its web, shining in the sun. I can hear hippos calling all the way from Chitwa Dam, which is a long way from here. There was another one here too. Come on, look over here, Dromedary. Come round this way. This clever spider, it's not a tropical tentweb spider, but this clever spider has tied itself into a little sort of wintry nest. It's made itself a home with leaves. And that's how it's got through the winter season. That's very clever of it. Very good. Now let's continue down here. Alrighty, David Gitu, now 76-0, is back with his elephant, so let's go back to him while we continue to try and get a point.
Well, James, I know, yeah, the moment you'll see a leopard, you're going to tell Cassie very quickly, come back to me. And, yeah, there's still a lot of time, James. You still have to get a cut. I thought you'd have beaten me and Big James here, but we beat you with the lions. And the elephants continue to entertain us here in the Mara Triangle. This particular area we call this area the marsh area. And the marsh because it's very swampy and it remains green all around the year. All around the year, it remains green, and it's very popular with the ellies. I don't remember the last time I came here, say on 2 drives, and missed to see at least a single elephant. You can see all the dew on the grass, on the green grass. If you look carefully, you can see the dew. And this is from the showers of last night. So with all the green grass that's full of moisture and the dew in the grass, that sometimes makes elephants not to drink as much because they're like both eating, and drinking at the same time. It's a huge herd. I was looking at an estimate of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, about 20 ellies. About 20 ellies. There's one male that just joined in them. Steve, we would think maybe 6, maximum 7. We are looking at a gestation period of almost 2 years and elephants living for about 65 years. It is such an investment to carry a baby for 2 years, and they need, of course, to re-energize and re-establish, all their body functionalities before they can get another baby. So my guess would be anything 6 to 7 babies, depending again on how strong a mother is. Just like human beings, we got mothers like in the village I come from. I know of a lady who got 14 kids, 14, and I know other ladies of her age bracket that will have 10. So again, just like human beings, elephants, it will depend on the particular cow. Some could even get 8, but I've always noticed an average of say 6 to 7 calves in the lifetime. All right, Steve, I don't know whether you may have another answer or you have seen elephants that have more, than that. But Steve, that could be my average of about 7 calves in a lifespan of years, because it may take 3 to 4 years, before she is able to rebuild herself after having given birth, and making sure that that baby is fully grown, independent, it can feed on itself before she commits to mating and conceiving and getting another baby. Again, as I said, to carry a baby for almost 2 years is not easy, and a lot of work the mothers have to do to make sure that baby survives for the whole period and it survives to be, taken care of, to be bred to adulthood. All right, you're going to reposition, move forward a little bit and see how they can see this elephant from a different angle. If James will allow me to do that, I'll be more than happy. Lovely weather at the moment. Alright, I'll stick around with my elephants here, but my brother James got a feathered friend with him.
We've I've got an actual heartbeat, if you can believe it, everybody. It is, of course, the crested francolin, possibly one of the most common birds out here. 4 of them in a little covey, now stalking us. It's actually really quite a spectacular sighting. They are no more than 5 meters away. They're just talking to each other. And Conrad in the final control room is saying that although I'm pretending that these birds are terrifying, he says they are actually rather terrifying because they make a dreadful noise when they explode out of the bushes and you're on foot. And they can certainly make a man's heart leap out of his mouth. Now you won't be able to hear it, but they're making very subtle little calls at each other all the time. Apparently you can hear it softly. I suspect it's me though. Others are just up here. The other 2 in the covey. Now they know they've been spotted, you see. Thank you, Romet. That is very kind of you to say that I make small creatures interesting. Running off like startled chickens. No further sign of the leopard, I'm afraid. I didn't find any tracks. Herbert has now absconded. Oh, there he is. He's now flashing his hands at me. I think that means that there's an elephant. Right. I think... Did you see his hand movement there, Gendre? Let me show you what he did. He did the following. Unfortunately, the zoom is very slow at the moment. There we go. Well done. He was doing this, which I think means either you're an idiot, come over here, or there's an elephant over there. Let's go and have a look. No, Kirsten, he's not saying, I can't hear you say hello. We greeted each other many, many hours previously. Let's go and see if he's got an elephant for us. It would be quite a leopard, but still. Oops, the daisies. I think there's an elephant behind us. All right. Right, Herbie's just up here. Let's see what he's got. Still, now a nasty cold breeze has come up despite the warming sun. Apparently it's now 13:56, that of course is without the wind chill factor. Luto, finilish. Queen, what do you want? Ingavona. Oh, yeah, ila kuvona. Ila live, sis. Herbert has just realized that we're live. He didn't think we were live. He says, we do have elephants over here. So let's go and have a look. You may also have seen Corley running away to the left-hand side of your picture. Corley, it's okay. Everyone knows you're alive. You may come and join us. I'm hoping we'll get a view sometime this century. Apparently also, despite the fact that we've had a freezing cold night, Scoobert, the blacksmith lapwing, is alive and well, viewable on the dam cam. Not sure quite how long it's going to take us to get to these things, but hopefully sometime soon. Apparently they're not far. Let's go up here. Poor old David deserves a bit of a break. We need to get 1 point as well. Please excuse the road. This is the quickest way to get to the elephants. Niconico, girl, you say the language I was speaking sounds lovely. Thank you. You must hear actually somebody who can speak it properly speaking it. It is Shangaan that I'm attempting to speak badly to Herbert. Yes, he's looking. Yes, he says he's got them. This is fantastic news. It's now time for me to retrieve my ash bag. Herbert is heading for a termite mound. The ash bag is going to tell us which way the wind is blowing, so that the elephants do not smell us. Okay. Right, there's a termite mound up ahead. That'll give us a height advantage, which is good for safety. He's got them there. Alright, everybody, be nice and quiet. Don't make a noise. Watch where your feet walk. Seems to me that they might be moving. The wind is perfect for us. I think they are moving as they go. Never mind, let's keep going. Okay, now apparently we're going to go across to David first to look at some crowned cranes. We'll try and get a better view of these elephants.
Yeah, hopefully James's Ellie's or will show up much better. But we got different. We got cranes here that I was earlier talking about. Elephants not having tusks in a national park called Bwindi in Uganda, and this reminds me of that country again, Uganda. Uganda is a country to the west of Kenya, and this bird here is the national bird of that country, just like the bald eagle, I guess, is the national bird of United States of America or the US. This bird here that's called a crown crane is the national bird of Uganda. Always going in twos again, unless of course they have the young ones, just like the vultures we saw earlier. But once in a while we have seen 3, 4, 5 together. Linda, you say you love these birds, and I would agree with you. They're very, very colorful. I was talking about the lilac-breasted roller being my favorite bird. But for this size of a bird, Belinda, I agree with you. They are very beautiful, different colors, and especially the crane they got on their heads. And I'll tell you, they'll be feeding on anything they can see, any crustacean, any worms in there, any insect. And the little water, the red water hanging below the neck, you can see how beautiful it looks. Good. If you could only turn around, you'll make up a day here. But you can still see the red water hanging below the neck there. Nice. But again, the crane, or rather the crane on the head, makes them look so cute. You can see it being blown there by the light wind that's going on. I was talking about sexual dimorphism of particular birds, and I said how easy it is on ostriches. And for this one, it's very difficult. But James, what is the latest you got for us from South Africa?
We've got these elephants now. They are spread out in an arc of about, say, 30 degrees in front of us, beautifully camouflaged. And what we will try and do is get a little bit closer. We've just got to assess exactly how many there are. So we're going to go up now towards this termite mound over here. We need to be careful because we're not sure exactly how many there are or how spread out they are. And despite the fact that they are enormous, of course, in this vegetation, they are moving silently and almost invisibly. There's a really nice view of the bull over there. Like I say, the wind is perfect for us, but there's not a huge amount of cover. Isn't that nice? Now, of course, it is Monday morning, which means many people my age are currently stuck in the traffic on their way to work. And here I am at work with an elephant on foot in the Western Kruger National Park. What an absolute pleasure to remind myself of that every week. All right, let's slowly make our way closer. Mimi, you said elephants are amazing animals. They are very amazing animals indeed. This one is digging, or trying to break open possibly the base of a push-down tree. No, just going to try and keep this bush between us and the elephant and go to the termite mound, which will get us a really nice view, all the while keeping an eye on the others. Wind is still perfect for us. Yes, W. James, you say don't rub it in about the Monday morning. I'm going to rub it in, W. James. I can remember from my earliest days at school, from the day that I registered, that every single week was going to be the same, Monday to Friday, desperately hoping for the weekend. I can remember thinking, I can't live like this for the rest of my life. And I'm very pleased that aged 42, I've managed to be in a position where that is not the case. All right, so there's another one over there. The big one we've been looking at is over the top of the mound. And so now what we're going to do is approach the mound relatively steadily, in other words, quite quickly, and then stop over there. Okay, let's go. That one is quite close. There's a youngster that's just emerged. Let's just go back a little bit behind this bush over here. Come over here. Got nice cover here. He's not reacting at all. I don't think he's even seen us. It's just a good idea to be over here. Herbie's just going to go and check the mound for us. Alright, the elephant's got its back turned. Herbie says, let's go. One thing you can never ever do with elephants is take anything for granted. Now, they hear very well, they smell very well, so we need to be quiet and we need to walk with care. Harley, elephants' intelligence, as with most mammals, is largely... I'm just going to be quiet now. You do come up here. this is because we have come up to this termite mound. The elephant's kind of been doing the same thing. There are 2 elephants here. There's this little one in front of us, and the big bull moving off towards the left-hand side of the picture. Now, let's discuss elephant's eyesight. That elephant is looking straight at us. I don't believe he's seen us. I don't think he's seen us. He didn't lift his head at all. Let's go up to the top of this mound now. Nice and slow, nice and careful. Stop here. You see him? You can come up. That's just gorgeous, isn't that wonderful? It's a young bull. He doesn't know we're here. Either that or he's just completely comfortable with human beings. Okay, now he stopped moving. Can you see that? Now he's aware of us. Suddenly became aware of us. You see the difference in his reactions there? He's not terrified, but he's not that comfortable. So he's going to move away. He's just straggling away from the rest of the herd. And now he'll probably catch up with them and try and stay with them. That's just fantastic. That's very, very special. I feel a little bit bad that he saw us, but there was really no way of seeing him without him seeing us in this particular instance. But I don't think his life is irreparably damaged in any way. He just got a small fright and has gone off to join his friends. And in fact, if you come around here, while carefully checking inside this termite mound that we aren't going to be attacked by something, we should be all right. We can see them meeting up with the rest of the herd. I wonder if it's not the same bulls we saw yesterday. Yesterday we saw 4 bulls on foot. You'll get a nice view from here, John Ree, if you don't have one there. One of them was much bigger than all the others. And I wonder if this isn't the same little group. They're still quite close to us. The wind is still very good for us. Yeah, I'm not sure we're going to get a better view. Let me just climb to the top of the mound and see if there isn't a better view from up here. No. They're so superbly camouflaged. It really is amazing. Let's just give them a second. They might come out into the open. Yeah, I think Jean-Andre's probably got the best view. The youngsters rejoined the others and he's completely relaxed now. It depends on the sighting, Anna-Marie. Very much for elephants like this are certainly some of my favourite sightings to have on foot. Leopards on foot tend to be much more fleeting than this. It's very seldom that you get to spend time with a leopard on foot. But you can spend time with elephants on foot. Very seldom get to spend any time with cats on foot, predators on foot in general, unless they're young leopards. And even Hosanna these days, he's not going to tolerate us for a long period, sitting watching him. He'll melt off into the bush. Well, that was very, very special. David has made the score, I think, 78-1 now. He's got the next item on his score sheet for you.
Well done, James, sporting Elysian foot. That's one very different type of, I would say, gaming or doing drives, not drives per se, in South Africa to spot animals on foot. It's always very exciting. I'm not sure that guy has one horn. Do you think move to the left, James? The other way, the other way, the other way. Keep going the other way. Keep going, keep going. Keep going there. Keep going again. Yeah, there's one that is so. I think it seemed like a male impala with one horn. I don't know where he has gone to. I'm sure, yeah, the one feeding now, right there. You see that one there? I could be wrong. Yeah, maybe not that. Maybe it's gone. Let's go back to the piggy that we saw earlier, the warthog. And congratulations to James for having spotted Elysian foot. So we got a pig here. This is the warthog. And very interesting to see it mixed together with impalas. And very different feeding habit if you look at her. Unlike the impalas, she is kneeling down while the impalas are just feeding while standing up. So what happens when the warthogs kneel down? They need one to reach the grass, but also that gives them the added advantage to be able, if they need to dig any tubers, because warthogs tend to eat so many tubers, lots of roots from the grass, they need to kneel down, and because their necks are so short, but by kneeling down, it gives them better leverage to be able to scoop or dig out the tubers or the roots of grass they want to feed on. Strange to see her alone in such a huge herd of impalas. And I'm sure you know different antelopes in Africa will have males with horns, females no horns, or some a particular species, both males and females having horns. But for this particular species we have here, these are impalas, and it's only the males that will have the horns and not the females. This is what we call, or I would call, a bachelor herd or a bachelor club. And some definitely have bigger horns than others, which means they're all of different ages. And unlike in South Africa, where they have a particular breeding season, in Kenya they'll mate any time. Romit, how are you? And always such a pleasure to hear your name, and getting a question from you is such a blessing. I will say impalas, if looking at their populations in the Mara, and more so in the Mara Triangle, Romit, I have seen them here. They thrive. They do very well. Not that in Juma they do not, but I would say here they do a lot better than I would say in South Africa. Here the space is huge, number one. Two, lots of food. You'll get a few pockets, a few, say, numbers of impalas, especially on the fringes, on the periphery of the game reserve, that do not look very healthy. I've never known why, but when you come down to the plains, to the savannah, like where we currently are, I would say they do perfectly well. If Romit, you look at the ones you have on your screen there, you can tell physically they look very, very good. Lots to eat, and I'm not sure having so many leopards in Juma tends to, bring the numbers down, but here they thrive and they do very well. So it's a whole bachelor herd, and impalas being mixed feeders. You notice just next to them on their left there's some little bushes there, and we call them sometimes ecotons. They could be feeding in the open grassland on the savannah, like where they are, or they could easily move to the left of your screen in the bushes you see there, and they'll still be at home. They'll be feeding on small little herbs or leaves in those bushes you see there. Definitely not on the crotons that you see. What you got there, that's the orange leaf croton that's having a little bit of a scratch. Do you want to go for each other? Maybe yes, maybe not. Oh, time for grooming. Good. Scratch my back, I scratch yours. How nice is that? So where? The neck area, the mouth, the forehead. That was shot. Done. Happy? Go look for another colleague to do the same, maybe. And then, as always, when it comes to time to mate, you'll get one big boy. You know, we'll try the rest and give them a little bit of a fight, a little bit of a match. And if he does well, he'll leave the rest of them there, having a run like that. And he'll take over the females and we'll, you know, start mating with them. Rarely they do more than 3 months because it's not easy to have 40, 50 females with one male. They wear out very quickly, and any other male on standby will come and, you know, give them a try and fight. And if he loses because he's not in his best condition, the new male takes over. And if there'll be no other, you know, all the females not have conceived, he finishes the job. Again, safety numbers, they'll stay together like that, making sure, you know, either leopards or cheetahs don't come for them. What can you see there, James? Are you seeing the warthog still? Very good. I got some shadow on my monitor here. So as it gets a little warm, they'll be looking for some shade just to make sure they keep cool. Roach impalas, have a great day. Keep eating, and hopefully going to see you later. Fun, yeah, you see, it's fun watching them graze, and it's so peaceful, and you can tell they're in such an atmosphere where everybody looks at home. Oops, something spoke them there. It's just one of them just trying to race, and they go. I hope you can hear that. That's exactly what happens when they're just about to get to the mating time. It's very similar to what we call ratting season, which again, as I said, it's very conspicuous when you go to South Africa. In Kenya, it's all around the year. And they would mate any one particular time. And again, as you say, Ram, just see them there playing, just, you know, grazing. Such a very peaceful atmosphere. I'm not sure why James Henry is sitting down.
We're going to play a new game called Question Time with Xoli now. Xoli, please sit over here. Question Time with Xoli, it basically includes me trying to stump him because I failed to do so yet. Xoli, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Say it into here, though, because this is where the microphone is.
Hello, everybody. My name is Xoli.
What is this, Xoli?
It's a green thorn.
No, it is not. Hooray, I knew I was going to get you. It isn't. It is not a torchwood. It is one of the sweetest smelling bushes that you'll ever find out here. Herbert knows exactly what it is. He's smiling at me from the other side. It's called a num-num. And it smells like sweet jasmine come the summertime. Num-num. Carissa bispinosa. And you can see the two thorns, and that's why it's called bispinosa. I knew you were going to tell me it was a green thorn, and I knew for the first time I was going to stump you. All right. We shall have more question time with Xoli a little bit later. He is now going to smack me upside the head, of course, the next time. Right, now many of you are confused about how to say Xoli's name. It's spelled X-O-L-I, and the X in Isindebele, which is his mother's home language, is the same as the Zulu X, which is said like you would say if you were trying to make a horse move. You'd say, and then it's O-L-I. Xoli, 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 Xoli. What have you got there, Herbert? Something to stump me. Ah, we were talking earlier about the spider and the spiders that survive through the winter And this is one of them, of course. This is the baboon spider. And this baboon spider's hole, interestingly, has been opened up. So the spider is now active. What they do during the winter is put a film of silk over the top, often with leaves on it or in it or woven into it, and then they remain inside the burrow probably for most of the winter time. And this one has opened up. So perhaps she's out hunting, trying to avoid wasps, which will be very good, because she does not want to end up like the 43-year-old spider that was killed by a wasp. Does she? No, no one does. On we go. There are no game drives out on Juma at the moment, which, although it means that, of course, the place is not being covered, I've got to tell you, it feels very different, and it feels like we're moving around in a proper wilderness. There's no sound of vehicles or radios or anything. It's really very special. Right, we're going up towards the Juma Dam, perhaps to get a view of Scooby, perhaps also to get a view of Hosanna. Meanwhile, let's go back to David and a bird of prey.
Good luck, James. And we got a huge raptor here. And just like earlier, I gave you some homework to do and finding out which that vulture is, because this one to me is an immature. Let me not say immature, I would say is a juvenile eagle. I've given you all the clues needed. Which eagle do you think this is? As usual, hashtag SafariLive. Send your answers through. I'll give you a couple of seconds. Just look at her carefully. Look on the crest on the head. Look on the hooked beak. Feathers all the way on the legs. They look like spots like on the wings. Kind of big eye. The way she is parched up. It's a bird of prey. Raptor. Riveria, you guessed crested eagle. Very good guess, but not quite, but very close. It's an eagle for a fact. I'll give you 5 out of what? What do you want, 5 out of 10 or 5 out of 6? Good guess, but for an eagle, very well done. So as I said earlier, it's a juvenile one. It's a juvenile eagle. Please keep sending in through your answers. James Richard, very well done, excellent, and I would say Hongera. Hongera in my local language means bien, means magnifique. Well done, James Richard. Yes, that's an immature or juvenile martial eagle. Very well done, very well done. Excellent, James Richard. You are good, I can tell, when it comes to birding. I've always categorized people who love birds to 3 groups. I have what I call birders, bird watchers, and I have what I call twitchers. I'm not sure James would be happy if I would put you in that top category of twitchers, people who know their birds very well. You're one of them. Very well done, James Richard. Yes, this is a juvenile martial eagle. To me, it's one of the strongest eagles we got in Africa. Crown eagles are much larger than martial eagles, but in terms of size, I would say martial eagles are huge, and it's easier for us to see martial eagles than crown eagles. And I'm never surprised from there. We have seen them flying down and maybe even picking a lamb of an impala, for example, and flying up in there and feeding on it. They got very strong, I would say, talons, and their legs are quite firm, and especially the thighs. They can easily just fly down. If you go back to our ego again, pick it up, and maybe just let it free from up there, and it lands on a rock, and they feed on it. But more often than not, they'll always be known to feed on other smaller birds. So if you look on the fully grown, that's the juvenile one, I'll be showing you how a fully grown looks like. It has more spots on the neck. She's asking, how tall is this eagle? I would say 1.5 feet. I would give it about a 1.5 feet. That's how, yeah, 1.5 feet more or less, give or take. That could be the height of this particular eagle, and especially when fully grown. This could be the specs for this particular one. As you keep enjoying it, I'll be trying to get the picture of a fully grown one, which will always have like black spots on the chest, very similar to the black-chested snake eagle, but they have the white. That white you see on the belly there, once they're fully grown, there'll be so many black spots on the breast area. So just 2 seconds, and I'll be able to show you very good how a fully grown one looks like on my book here. Alright, James, if you come to the book here, I don't know how the lighting looks, you'll let me know what to do. So my hand could be on the way. So what you have on the right, if we point here, you see that one there? If you pan there, James, very good. That's what we have out there, and that's an immature Marshall eagle. I hope James Richard is still there. But I was talking more of the one on the left. You see that one there? See that one there, James? Look on the spot. So the white still remains, but you see so many black spots on the breast area there. And that's what tells them apart from a fully grown or an adult, from a juvenile or from an immature. But more so, you see the black there. If you point the black there, just on the neck and, you know, above the breast, that separates the juveniles from the adults. Aren't they beautiful eagles? And you see the young one there, you may not see very well. The eye is not as yellow as the fully grown. You look at the fully grown there. Well done, James. I'm sure all the viewers can see that. It has, of course, the yellow and the black people inside, but the fully grown one has more conspicuous yellow eye than the juvenile one. Or Marshall eagles, you always see them alone. And hopefully this youngster will be having its own life to live. We're going to move on forward. Let's see what next we have. Might be seeing more eagles. Angelina, a great comment. Yes, it's a huge raptor or bird of prey, Angelina. And as I said earlier, in terms of size, the Marshall eagles are the largest birds we have in this area. Not sure where my earpiece want to go. Stay there, don't go away. Let's see if we can see it on a different angle, Angelina, and you can see how huge they are. Holding on. Let's see, James, whether they can see it on a different angle from here. Did she fly away? Not very good angle, Angelina. I would have shown you the same eagle on a different angle, but I can't see her right now. Sorry, Kirsty, I missed that question, and the person who asked the question, can you bring it again, please? Pereira Zuni, you're asking how long maybe it would take for it to come from maybe one plumage to another. We got other eagles that you call Batlua eagle. The Batlua eagles take about 7 to 8 years to come from the colors that we see to the actual fully grown eagles. For the Marshall eagle, I will not know for a fact when they lose or when they get the black spots on the breast and the black or the gray that we saw below the neck, at what age that happens. I'll be finding out for you. But for the Batlua eagle, which I'll stop and show you, it takes 7 to 8 years for them to get to those different colors. The young stars are very different from the adults. So if I get the Batlua eagle now, I'll be able to show you the difference between the immatures and the fully grown ones. And that one, for a fact, I can tell you it takes 7 to 8 years. 32, 34, and 40. Let me see. Alrighty. Okay. Now, James, are you ready? So I hope you're still watching. And Down there, number 7. James, show you the number 7. I hope the light is good. It looks a bit dark. Does that help, James? Alright, but at least you have an idea. This is the Bartlia Eagle here. And number 7, that's a fully grown one. That's 7C there. And 7A there. That's a youngster. Not very good light that we have, James. What do you mean? That way? Let me see if it gets better. James, it's better light than that. Does that help? That's good? Excellent. So 7C, if you look at 7C there, that's a fully grown Bartlia Eagle, and 7A to the left is a youngster. So between those two colors, the plumage between the youngster or the immature one and the adult, it takes 7 to 8 years. I'll be finding out for you how long it takes for the Marshall Eagle, but for the Bartlia Eagle, no, 100%, it takes 7 to 8 years to get to those colors. Sorry, the lighting is not very good, but at least you have an idea of what I'm talking about. If you look on the juvenile one to the left there, doesn't have any white or any chestnut or any yellow on the beak, but the fully grown one, you can see the legs, the back, have the chestnut or the like orange color, the white and the black and the yellow on the beak. Alrighty, thank you very much. Let's move on. Alright, I was thinking and finding out how long it will take for the Marshall Eagles to get one brooding plumage to fully grown one, and let's go back to James Henry.
I think it's about 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, that it takes to get to full plumage. 3 or 4 years. Now, we've come back down towards Juma Dam. We are now convinced that the monkey's alarm calling that we heard, not at the dam itself, but down south of the dam earlier, were not for Hosana, but for probably Tingana, who was calling. We think it was him calling. Anyway, that's the story there. Let's go and see what we can find down this way. I've taken my jacket off because it has become sufficiently warm. And we can hear the lovely call of the crested barbet. It's such a happy call because, of course, it always does it just when it starts to warm up in the day. You'll also be very sad to know that you missed karma taking its revenge on me. I fell in a hole just before you came to me. Gendre, he fell about laughing. All he said, oh yes, well, that's karma for you. He didn't say it quite like that, but that's what he meant. Christine, who's sitting in the final control, says perhaps it was too much moonshine. No, Christine, thankfully the moonshine effect has worn off. We've brought some moonshine all the way from North Carolina, which we all sampled last night. And, well, the camp was fairly subdued after that. Right, let's head back down into the drainage line. I see that there is an impala or nyala sitting at the dam. I don't think Hosana's right there. No, Mick, it's a great big misconception created by a film where elephants and apparently monkeys and baboons can get drunk on marula fruits. It's a huge misconception. And in fact, the monkeys and baboons that were drunk in those films were drugged. They were fed fruits that had injected amounts of, I think, probably vodka in them, or something cheaper. So there are no fruits out here that could make an animal drunk. They worked out that even if you were to take fermenting marula fruits and give them to an elephant, in order to have the effect of basically one beer on body size of an elephant, they'd have to eat something stupid like 300 kilograms of marula fruits. So, I mean, it certainly is not possible. It's possible that the sugar in the marulas and the vitamin C in the marulas puts them on a very slight energy high, if you like it, Coca-Cola might to a child. Certainly not drunk, but maybe just slightly elevated energy levels for a little while until the pancreas is able to produce sufficient insulin to deal with the problem. Now we're quite close to the dam, where young Hosanna was seen this morning on the dam cam. We didn't want to disturb his hunting early this morning, but right now I'm pretty sure if he is here still, he'll be flat, fast asleep. And that'll be a good time to find him for us, on foot. We might also get a view of Scoobert. Jonathan, will definitely get more rain in South Africa this year. No one knows if it's going to be a wet or a dry rainy season, but we're not in the rainy season yet. We'd expect it to be dry until probably the end of October, beginning of November. Then we'd expect to have some decent big thunderstorms. So we had a little bit of rain 2 days ago, probably 2 or 3 millimeters. Not enough to turn the grass green. Some nice nyala or impala up there. Let's see if we can get a better view of them. And apparently they are nyala. And there's a little baby one. John, let's move just around this corner and then we'll get a nice view of them. Just quickly going to show you a track of Hosanna the male leopard. Let me get my small leg out the way. That's where he came earlier today, or earlier last night. Now Scoobert's parents are flying above me. The Nyala have run away from Herbert. There's a Dyker running away from Herbert. They're all the Nyalas. Now I know you can see all those animals running away, and that's just simply because of the human presence, I'm afraid. That's pretty normal. And there the Nyala have calmed down as they've made cover. They'll come back again. I'm just going to wait until we see the blacksmith lapwings land. I see they're going to land at the pan, so that's probably where Scoobert is. Let's see if we can't go and see him. Well, yes, that's the danger, isn't it, Jojo? Don't step on Scoobert, you say. Yes, they're all round the pan now, his parents. I'm sure we'll get a picture of him now. Come. Yeah, they've landed right just the other side. Oh, Scooby, little Scooby. I suspect Hosanna has headed off towards a Gallagher pan. Right, where is Scoobert? His parents are all around here. They're normally a pretty good indicator as to where he is. One of them's landing down below there. Just going to quickly check there with my binoculars. We won't get a picture of him in the camera if he's down there. I don't see him there. Let's try around this side. Now, he will be hiding very close if he is around here. Just look again down at the bottom. He's nowhere near the one at the bottom. I'm pretty sure that the parent's shouting up above our heads. Kirsten says I need to watch where I'm walking. He'll run before I stand on him. Carol, you say Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? I'm sure he's in here somewhere. I'm not going to go stomping around. The dam cam's watching me, so if I do any damage to young Scooby, I'll be in big trouble. No, I can't see him, I'm afraid. That's not a bad thing. He must stay disguised. Alright, we're going to have one last go at trying to find Hosana. We'll go around the side of this water hole over here. Maybe we'll be lucky, maybe not. In the meantime, David has made the score 93-1.
Good luck. Hopefully you get Hosana, one of my favorite leopards in Juma. And you got a hammerkop very close to these two buffaloes, very busy feeding. And hammerkop is right in between them. I do not know why she should be there, because egrets are the birds that you'll see with these big herbivores. As they feed and they move, they disturb the grass. We've got insects jumping up and down. But that hammerkop there, if James just stick to the two buffaloes on behind there and try until you can see the hammerkop move to the left, yes. And that's the hammerkop. You can see some brown bud between those two buffaloes there. Called hammerkops in Dutch. I think kop means a hammer. If you look at the shape of that head, it looks like an anvil. Well, you'll always get them in wet areas where they'll get, frogs and fish and crustaceans, anything that would be living in water to feed on. But it's so interesting to get it so close to the buffaloes. I don't think buffaloes of any benefit to it. If there were egrets, you'd say yes. They'd be waiting for the buffaloes to move the grass and feed. But this one, regardless of the buffaloes being there, she is still getting her food in the water. Buffaloes are bulk eaters, and you notice some of the grass that they're eating. Elephants or other herbivores will not be able to eat because it doesn't have a lot of nutritional value. But I think being very water dependent, they will not mind just keep eating it. We'll be hearing a car just passing next to us. It's quite a big herd of buffaloes here. Oops. Alrighty, time to have a match. Is it a true fight or is it a friendly one? It reminds me of the Zorros in Spanish, where you see Zorros or buffaloes going for a fight, and Casting, the final control, is enjoying this. So they're locking their horns at the moment. But when they go for real fights, well, this looks more of a friendly one. These fights are always huge, fatal. You see them poking their eyes out, and you see them sometimes bleeding. Some of the longest fights I've ever known are for buffaloes. They could go on for hours. Hours I'm talking about. 4, 5, 6 hours non-stop. They'll fight, they'll pause, they'll have a commercial break, and then they'll keep fighting again. But when they have real fights, you'll always see them away from the herd. These are definitely two boys, they're definitely two males. Rarely you see females fighting. There's one that have a bird on top. I'm not sure that's an oxpecker. I guess that's an oxpecker. Alright, let's go for each other. Boom. So they keep pushing and pushing. And when they got the tails up, it always gives them a better angle to approach the other one. My guess is just a play fight, because you tell how the behavior of the rest would be if it was an actual fight. What I've noticed is real fight going for each other either of the females, they'll always be fighting away from the herd, and the herd will always move and leave the fighters alone, and they'll stick fighting for hours and hours. And you can tell the rest are not bothered, keep feeding, which means they know all is good. We can escape. Please, Cast, bring her question again. Sorry. We can escape the horns here, Suta. The bigger the horns, that would mean a nude buffalo. And I'm sure you know males and females are quite different. Males have bigger and heavier horns than females, and especially at the base where they grow, they are much wider and bigger in size. So yes, I would say the bigger the horns, the older the buffaloes are. That would definitely tell. The younger ones, you'll also see the angle they take from the head is different. They tend to come out more straight, and they don't have the curve. So as they grow older, the horns definitely get bigger and they are more curved towards each other. When young, they tend to grow right straight up from the skull. Yeah, they're still enjoying this play fight as more birds keep flying around there. I don't know where the egrets are. We would be having so many egrets here because the more the movement of the buffaloes, the more chances of them having insects jumping up. When they go for real fight, you'll see them doing that and having their necks on the ground. And this is the time you don't want to take chances with the buffaloes. In the village where I come from, we have buffaloes and hippos. And my experience is we have lots of casualties, or I would say we have more deaths from buffaloes than the hippos. It depends on where you come from, Africa. But in my village, buffaloes have done more damage to people than the hippos. How special is this? And you can tell, to me, they're youngsters, not that young, but they have lots of energy in them. And you can hear them locking the horns as they go for each other. So if it was a real fight, you'd see the concern on the others. Oh, Matt, you're asking if they would. Yes, and I've seen one. It did not die immediately. It was a long fight. We were out on a drive like about 10 o'clock and we stayed with the fight until about 1. We got hungry, went back to the camp for lunch, came back, and we didn't find them fighting, but one of them was sitting, and I do not know how it ended up with such a big gash wound on the neck. And we stayed with it there at about 6:30, bleeding, and it eventually died. We came back the day after, it died. So occasionally it's very rare, but once in a while they would fight to death. And again, it's always over dominance of females. And funny, the oxpecker is not worried of the fight. The oxpecker won the ticks and still enjoying the ride there, hitchhiking, as the two guys go for each other. But again, as I said, yeah, rarely that happens when or where they'll fight to death, but it happens. I think I've only seen one death in my whole career, because what happens, the loser will always be very quick to, like, you know, go the other way. You don't fight to death, you want to live to fight another day. So that could either be a red-billed or yellow-billed oxpecker. It looks to me as an immature one. Next great comment, they play for bulldozers. That's great comment. And yes, they have lots of energy. While the rest are feeding next, you can see these ones here are still going for each other. That shows the amount of energy they got. And if I'm asked the animal that I would fear most in Africa, buffaloes, and no question about it. I've had a few close-ups with the animals that we call the big five of Africa. I'm talking about the buffaloes, elephants, lions, and rhinos. And to me, this is one that I would want to warn everybody. You may have a chance of dealing with a lion, maybe if you're lucky, or a leopard, but not buffaloes. Buffaloes have been known to go for whoever. And they're very sneaky animals. They've been known, like in my village, where we have gone looking for them, and the ladies want to go to the bush to go and source for firewood, for cooking fuelwood. And when we see buffaloes, they'll call us, you know, the young boys in the village. And what we'll do, we'll always go and get stones and small rocks, and we throw at the buffaloes, and they go away. But saying they're sneaky, they'd go in the bushes and go around people and then come behind them again. And we would hear women screaming, and they're like, what happened? I thought we threw the buffaloes away. Very clever animals. And even way back when, you know, hunting was very big in Africa until it is stopped now, especially in Kenya, when hunting was banned in 1977, they used to kill so many people. And what was going on, they ended up coining or talking of the Big Five. And they call these famous, you know, 5 animals the Big Five because they're the animals that they hunted most for their trophies, but also the animals that had more damage or casualties, the animals that killed more hunters than any other animals. So buffaloes were known way back to kill the same hunters, would be having very big guns, you know, 5.73, 5.75, but they would look for the buffalo they wanted. And what they used to look on buffaloes is the size of the horn, not of how big it is. They would look at the base, and they would use what you call volumetric. That's how wide the horn was from the base, not how big it was. And they would look for it, identify it, and follow it. And if they would lose it, then they would give up, look for another one. But they would lose the same buffalo, and it would go right behind them and come for them and kill them. Alrighty, we're going to leave our buffaloes now, and they are happy eating, and they'll continue eating there, and see what else we got ahead. Alright. Warming up now, and I think I may have to remove... Are you warm, James, or are you still cold? What do you mean you're okay? That's not an answer, James. I ask, are you warm or you're cold? Because I want to bring one layer down. I love my jacket. I really want it leaving my body. All right, let's go to James very quickly. He might have some very good surprise.
Wah! Ha! No, nothing. We're still trying though. I'm quite surprised by David's jacket every time I see it. I find it very surprising. It is he's almost invisible. All you can see is his head, and then he's invisible for the camouflage, you see. We're on our way home, feeling slightly dejected, but we are feeling excited about the elephants that we saw, which were very nice. Alyssa, the answer is as much as is possible for some of us, and not enough time. Certainly in my case, I find that I would like to have a lot more time to sit and read and research. But yeah, we do sit and read and research. It's very important, otherwise you get very stale very quickly. This particular tree is something that Paulie's going to be reading and researching about after this, because unless I'm very much mistaken, he won't know what it is. It makes beautiful yellow flowers, and it's not very common here, and has vicious thorns. So I'm going to break him a piece. See, this is how kind I am. I'm going to break him a piece, risking my fingers. Ah. Ah. See, I'm making a noise like this, hoping he'll come and help me. Ah. Ah. Ow. He's just staring at me with malevolence from the backyard. I don't really blame him. I'll tell you what it is. It's called a spiny bone apple, or Catanarigum spinosa. Makes lovely straight walking sticks if you can deal with the thorns. Beautiful, beautiful yellow flowers when they come, very briefly, just for a few days every year. Our last sort of walk for the drive, our last sort of walk for the drive, has been to come through this gully that runs next to the camp, because Hosanna has been here, of course, quite a lot of late. But he seems to be moving away from the camp now, which is probably a good thing. Cal 6, yes, I will often walk if I'm not live. I very seldom go for a drive if I'm not live. I find game drives, sitting on the back of other people's game drives, a slightly painful process. It's just because I've done it so much. But I will often walk, yeah, if I'm off. And I will certainly often go and sit in the tent, where it's very pleasant to sort of look out and contemplate the world. There was a duiker running away in panic because it saw Herbert. Soon also, as the rain starts to fall, these termite mounds will be built again, and this particular one is from Odontotermes. Odontotermes doesn't make big mounds, it just makes these sort of chimneys, I suppose, and very low mounds. Also fungus growers, so they too have fungus gardens under the ground, which allow them, of course, to deal with the structural material of plants, cellulose and lignin. Good. I'll go over the top here, shall I, Chandra? See how limber I am. Come on then. Do you think you'll make it through here, or should we go around that way? Let's go this way. Poor old Chandra was going to get stuck in amongst the bushes there. Here's another plant that produces gorgeous yellow flowers. This one is called the porcupine bush, according to Troli. He is, of course, correct. It is the porcupine bush, Pyrostria hystrix. The smile on his face right now is wider than the sun was bright this morning. There we go, Pyrostria hystrix, the porcupine bush. Let me just give this to him quickly. There you are. Legend Raven, you will not believe it, but this is not pre-recorded, this is live. It is happening right now, live. There is only 1 minute left of the show for me to convince you that it's live. How should I do that? Well, I tell you what, I'll tell you the time. The time is 8:28 on Monday, the 10th of September. That is in South Africa. We are live. And it's very nice to have you with us, and I hope that you will continue to watch us over the next little while. All right, I'm going to end the show now as we walk down into this gully. Jeandre will probably get himself tangled up in a tree, so I'll just stop here while I thank you very much for your patience today. I know that it was a little frustrating not finding any cats this tide of Juma. Many of you enjoy our cats very much, as do we. And I will also tell you that this afternoon Sydney will return, and also Taylor will be back at Juma for the next little while. So that's a lot to look forward to. We'll see you once again at 3:30 this afternoon. Until then, goodbye.